That night, after putting the kids to bed, David found himself sitting on the porch, staring into the dark. The crickets chirped, the streetlights glowed faintly, but his heart was restless. Finally, he picked up his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in months. "Pastor Henry," he said when the familiar voice answered. "It's David. I need to talk." The pastor's tone was warm, steady. "Son, my door is always open. Come by tomorrow." David ended the call, his throat thick with emotion. For the first time since the storm began, a sliver of hope stirred inside him. But so did fear, because facing his pain meant deciding whether to forgive or let go. And forgiveness, he knew, was a mountain he wasn't sure he could climb. The dining table had once been the Johnsons' place of joy. Monica would set out her famous cornbread, David would tease Marcus about eating too fast, and Layla's giggles filled every corner of the room. But now, dinner felt like sitting in a courtroom where no one dared to speak. One Tuesday evening, Monica served baked chicken, collard greens, and mashed potatoes, David's favorites. She placed the plate in front of him carefully, almost as if she was offering peace. "Thank you," he said, flatly, without looking at her. The silence that followed was unbearable. The only sounds were forks scraping plates and the ticking clock on the wall. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Daddy, Coach said I was the fastest runner at practice today," he offered brightly, trying to fill the quiet. David forced a smile for his son. "That's great, Marcus. Keep it up." But the moment passed quickly. The atmosphere returned to heavy silence. Monica tried to speak. "Layla, how was school?" The little girl shrugged, poking her mashed potatoes. "Okay." She didn't lift her eyes. Monica's throat tightened. She wanted to reach across the table, to grab David's hand, to laugh again like before. Instead, she kept her head down, blinking away tears. David noticed. He noticed everything, her trembling hands, her lowered eyes. But pride kept him silent. Every time he looked at her, the pain returned. He wanted to believe her tears were real, but doubt chained his heart. Halfway through the meal, Layla whispered, "Why does it feel sad in here?" Both parents froze. Marcus glanced at his sister, then at his father. "She's right. Dinner doesn't feel like dinner anymore." David set down his fork, his chest tightening. He wanted to tell them everything, to release the weight crushing his chest. But how could he? How could he break their innocence with the truth? Instead, he cleared his throat and stood. "I'm not really hungry," he muttered, walking away from the table. The children exchanged worried looks. Monica lowered her head into her hands, tears spilling freely now. For the first time, the children saw their strong mother cry at the dinner table. And in that moment, Marcus realized, whatever had happened between his parents was far bigger than he could understand. The following Sunday morning, the Johnson family walked into New Light Baptist Church together, but not as they once did. In the past, David would hold Monica's hand as they ushered the children inside. They would sing him side by side, their voices blending with joy. But now, though they sat on the same pew, David kept a noticeable distance, his arms folded, his eyes fixed straight ahead. Pastor Henry, a tall man in his 60s with a gentle smile, noticed immediately. He had been shepherding this congregation long enough to recognize when a family carried unseen burdens. After the service, as people lingered to greet one another, he approached David quietly. "Son," he said warmly, placing a hand on his shoulder, "you called me earlier this week. I can see something is weighing on you. Come by my office today. Bring Monica too." David hesitated, glancing at Monica, who stood a few feet away, clutching Layla's hand. She looked back at him with tearful eyes. Finally, he nodded. "All right, Pastor. We'll come." Later that afternoon, they sat in Pastor Henry's office. The room smelled faintly of old books and coffee. Bible verses framed in gold hung on the wall, and sunlight streamed through lace curtains. David sat rigidly, his arms crossed. Monica sat beside him, wringing her hands. Pastor Henry leaned forward. David, Monica, I don't need the details if you're not ready. But I can see hurt between you. Hurt that, if left unchecked, will wound your children even more. David's voice cracked. She betrayed me, Pastor. Monica burst into tears. I did, Pastor. I failed my husband. I failed God. I failed my family. But I want to make it right. The pastor's eyes softened. Monica, repentance is the first step. But true healing takes time. David, forgiveness is a mountain to climb. But remember, unforgiveness is its own prison. David looked away, his jaw tight. How do I forgive when every time I look at her, I see lies? By remembering what's at stake, Pastor Henry said firmly. Not just your pride, not just your marriage, but your children's hearts. Marcus and Layla are watching. They're learning what love looks like, either broken or restored. You both must decide what story they will remember. The room fell into heavy silence. David's eyes brimmed with tears for the first time since the discovery. Monica reached out, timidly, her hand trembling. For a moment, David didn't move. Then slowly, he let her fingers touch his. It was small, fragile, but it was the first step. That night, after their meeting with Pastor Henry, Monica sat alone at the dining table long after the children had gone to bed. A single lamp cast a soft glow over the room. Before her lay a blank sheet of paper and a pen. She stared at it for a long time, tears dripping onto the page before she even began. She thought of the letters David had found, the ones that tore their marriage apart. Those words had been written in selfishness, in weakness. Now, she wanted to write the words that mattered, the truth of her heart. Her hand trembled as she began. David, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I hurt you in a way no wife ever should. There are no excuses for what I did. It was not about you. It was about me, about my foolishness, my blindness, my pride. I was wrong. But I love you. I always have. I let my heart wander where it never should have, and I hate myself for it. Not a day goes by that I don't regret it. I see the pain in your eyes, and it kills me. I see the hurt in Marcus and Layla, and it breaks me. If you never trust me again, I will understand. If you never look at me the same, I will carry that burden. But please, don't give up on us. Don't give up on this family. I am willing to do whatever it takes. Counseling, prayers, accountability, just to earn back what I threw away. You are my husband. You are the father of my children. You are the love of my life. And I will fight every day to prove it, if you let me. Monica. She folded the letter carefully and slipped it onto David's pillow. Then she crept back into the living room, where he still slept on the couch. She stood over him for a long moment, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead as silent tears streamed down her cheeks. The next morning, David found the letter waiting for him. He sat on the edge of the bed, reading it over and over. His heart wrestled with anger and sorrow, but something in her words pierced through the walls he had built. For the first time, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, this wound could one day heal. A week later, the Johnson home carried the same heavy silence. Though David had read Monica's letter, he hadn't spoken about it. He was softer, yes, less sharp in tone, less cold, but the distance remained. Monica lived in a constant state of waiting, hoping for a sign. The children, however, could no longer keep their feelings bottled up. One evening, Monica gathered the family for dinner. She prepared fried plantains and grilled tilapia, Marcus's favorite. As they sat at the table, the silence returned like an uninvited guest. Marcus suddenly pushed his plate away. His young face twisted with frustration. "Why are you both pretending?" he burst out. David and Monica froze, their eyes snapping toward him. Pretending? David asked carefully. Yes. Marcus shouted, his voice cracking. You don't talk to each other anymore. You don't laugh. You don't even sit together in church. You act like you hate each other, but then you tell us everything is fine. It's not fine. Layla's lip trembled. She slid off her chair and ran into Monica's arms, sobbing. I don't like it, Mommy. I don't like it when Daddy doesn't smile. I want things the way they were. Monica held her daughter tightly, her own tears flowing. Oh, baby. I'm so sorry. David swallowed hard. Seeing Marcus's anger and Layla's tears cut him deeper than anything else. His son's eyes glistened with a pain far beyond his years. Do you know what I hear at school? Marcus continued, his voice shaking. Kids saying their parents might get divorced. And I keep thinking, are you two next? The word divorce hung in the air like thunder. David's chest heaved. He looked at Monica, her arms wrapped around their crying daughter, her face streaked with tears. For the first time, he saw not just his own pain, but the destruction spilling over into the hearts of his children. He leaned forward, his voice trembling. Marcus, Layla, listen to me. I love your mother. I love both of you more than life itself. We are not giving up. We're going to fix this. Marcus's expression softened, but tears still slid down his cheeks. Promise. David reached across the table, taking his son's small hand in his own. Promise. Monica looked at him then, her eyes filled with both sorrow and hope. It was the first time David had said out loud that he wanted to fix their family. And though the road ahead was long, that night the Johnsons took their first real step toward healing, not just for themselves, but for the children who needed them whole. The night Marcus and Layla broke down stayed with David. Long after the children had gone to bed, he sat in the living room with his head in his hands. Their tears echoed in his mind louder than any argument, sharper than any betrayal. He realized the affair wasn't just about him and Monica anymore. It was about the entire family, about the legacy of love or pain they would leave behind. When Monica came quietly into the room, her eyes swollen from crying, David didn't look up at first. She stood in the doorway, hesitant, as though afraid to breathe too loudly. Finally, she whispered, David, what are we going to do? He lifted his head slowly, his face etched with exhaustion. We can't keep living like this. The kids are drowning in our silence. I can't let that happen. Monica clasped her hands together. I'll do anything, David. Counseling, prayer, accountability, anything. Just don't give up on us. David studied her for a long moment. He saw the desperation in her eyes, the weight of her regret. He sighed deeply, the sound heavy but softer than it had been in weeks. All right, he said finally. We'll try counseling. Pastor Henry mentioned a Christian therapist he trusts. Maybe we start there. Monica's breath caught. For the first time in weeks, a glimmer of relief spread across her face. She reached for his hand across the couch. This time, he didn't pull away. His touch was hesitant, fragile, but it was contact, something she hadn't felt from him in too long. Thank you, she whispered, squeezing his hand. You won't regret this. He didn't answer, but for the first time since the discovery, his eyes softened just slightly. The following week, they made an appointment with a counselor recommended by Pastor Henry. Walking into the office together felt strange, like stepping into a battlefield where they would have to face wounds they had tried to bury. But as they signed in, side by side, Marcus and Layla waited outside with Pastor Henry's wife, playing with crayons and coloring books. And though the children were too young to understand the full weight of what was happening, they felt something shift. For the first time in weeks, hope, small, fragile, but real, began to return to the Johnson household. The counseling office was warm and inviting, painted in soft beige with a small bookshelf stacked with devotionals, family therapy guides, and children's books. A scented candle flickered gently on the side table, filling the room with lavender. For David and Monica, though, the air felt heavy, as if the walls themselves were listening. Their counselor, Mrs. Elaine Porter, was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a calm presence. She welcomed them with a soft smile. "Marriage isn't about two perfect people," she began, "but about two imperfect people willing to fight for each other. You're here, which means you both want to fight. That's a start." David sat stiffly, arms crossed, his jaw tight. Monica sat beside him, hands clasped nervously in her lap. Mrs. Porter leaned forward. "David, would you share what you're feeling?" He exhaled sharply. "I feel humiliated, betrayed. I thought I was giving my all, and then I find those letters. It makes me wonder if our whole marriage has been a lie." Monica's eyes filled with tears. "It wasn't a lie, David. I was weak. I let someone make me feel seen when I should have been turning to you. I can't take back what I did, but I'll spend the rest of my life proving my love for you if you let me." David looked away, his throat tightening. "How do I know it won't happen again? How do I know I'm not just setting myself up for more pain?" Mrs. Porter's voice was steady. "That's the real wound, David. Broken trust. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it's choosing to rebuild. It will take time, consistency, and honesty from Monica, and patience from you. Healing is slow, but it's possible." She turned to Monica. "What do you need to say to him right now?" Monica reached out, her hand trembling. "David, I am sorry. I hurt you. I hurt our children. I hurt our home. I can't erase it, but I will fight every day to earn back your trust. I will answer every question, take every step, because you are my husband, and I don't want anyone but you." David swallowed hard, blinking back tears. For weeks, anger had been his shield. But in that moment, the shield cracked. He didn't speak, but for the first time, he didn't pull his hand away when she touched him. Mrs. Porter smiled gently. "That right there is a beginning. Healing doesn't happen in one session. But you've taken your first step." As they left the office that day, the air between them still carried tension, but it also carried something new, an unspoken possibility that love might still have a chance. The weeks that followed were not easy, but they were different. Counseling sessions became a rhythm, sometimes painful, sometimes hopeful, but always necessary. David was still guarded, but the icy walls he had built began to show cracks. One Saturday morning, Monica woke early. The children were still asleep, their soft breathing drifting from their rooms. She moved quietly in the kitchen, preparing David's favorite breakfast: grits, scrambled eggs, and turkey bacon. She set the table neatly, even placed a small vase with fresh flowers in the center. When David walked in, still half-tired, he paused. The smell hit him first. Then his eyes fell on the table. "I made breakfast," Monica said softly, her voice almost shy. David hesitated before sitting down. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he took a bite. It was simple, ordinary, but it felt like more. "Thank you," he said finally. His tone was flat, but not cold. It was a start. Monica's heart swelled. She had not heard him thank her in weeks. Later that week, David stopped by a flower shop on his way home from work. He hadn't planned it. It was more impulse than intention. But when he walked through the door carrying a small bouquet of lilies, Monica froze. "For you," he muttered, almost awkwardly, placing them on the counter. Her eyes widened, then brimmed with tears. "David!" "Don't read too much into it," he said quickly, though his voice lacked its usual edge. "I just thought you'd like them." That night, after the children went to bed, Monica and David sat together in the living room. For the first time in weeks, they talked, really talked. Not about bills or chores or the children, but about feelings. David admitted how deeply wounded he was. Monica admitted how lost she had felt before her mistake, and how ashamed she was now. They didn't solve everything that night, but laughter returned in small bursts. Monica teased David about his off-key singing to the radio. David chuckled when she spilled juice trying to hurry to the kids. These little sparks, fragile but real, reminded them both that love wasn't gone. It was buried beneath hurt, waiting to be uncovered. And though trust still had a long way to go, the Johnson home began to sound less like a courtroom and more like a family again. Spring arrived in Atlanta, painting the streets with blossoms and warm breezes. Inside the Johnson household, life still bore scars, but something was changing. The silence that once suffocated the home had been replaced with cautious conversations, small laughter, and gentle gestures that hinted at healing. One Sunday evening, after returning from church, David gathered his family in the living room. Marcus and Layla sat on the rug with their toys, while Monica perched nervously on the couch, her hands clasped tightly. David cleared his throat, his voice steady but emotional. "Kids," he began, "I know you've noticed that Mommy and I haven't been the same lately. We've hurt each other, and we've hurt you too. But I want you to hear this from me. We are not breaking apart. We're working.